Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to meet President Xi Jinping at the 2025 Shanghai Cooperation Organisation Summit, that is, the SCO Summit. This is no ordinary handshake. This is a test of trust, betrayal, and survival. India and China share one of the world's most combustible relationships. Brothers once, rivals now, traders in peace, fighters in war. China betrays, India miscalculates. Both bleed. And now, after Trump's tariff war in 2025 tore through global trade, these two giants are facing each other again. Can Modi's first trip to China in 7 years finally thaw tensions, or is this just another mirage? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. The backdrop is explosive. Galwan still haunts India. Troops glare across the line of actual control. Trade is poisoned by suspicion. America's tariffs have left both economies bruised and furious. Modi once believed leader-to-leader diplomacy could tame Beijing. Xi once smiled and struck at the border. Now, flights are resuming, pilgrimage routes are reopening, trade flows are cautiously returning. But behind the smiles is raw mistrust. Is this a genuine recalibration or just a pause before the next betrayal? Shanghai Cooperation Organisation Summit is more than a gathering of leaders. It's a stage, a chessboard, a testing ground. Modi's first visit to China in over 7 years screams significance. Xi wants to assert China's dominance in Asia. Modi wants to show India will not yield under pressure. Both leaders have another thing in common, proving that Trump's 2025 tariff war did not break them. The stage is carefully choreographed. Sovereignty, territorial integrity, trade, every handshake carries weight. Every word is calculated. This is not friendship. This is survival. Behind closed doors, the stakes are far higher than photo ops. Troop pullbacks, trade agreements, climate cooperation, these are tactical maneuvers. Modi will push for India's economic and territorial interests. Xi will advance Beijing's vision of Asian primacy. This is high-stakes diplomacy. Border is the shadow that never disappears. Galwan in 2020 shattered illusions. Soldiers on both sides died, and with it, trust died. Even now, despite disengagement, thousands of troops remain dug in. Roads, bunkers, airstrips. The Himalayas are militarized like never before. Maps released by China claiming Arunachal Pradesh are knives to India's pride. Every Chinese patrol crossing into disputed zones is another cut. India responds. China pushes back. Talks drag on. Nothing really moves. The LAC is more than a line. It is a symbol of suspicion, a test of patience. Every summit must confront it. Can diplomacy tame mountains, or are these ridges destined to remain walls of mistrust?
Well, what China did in Ladakh in 2020 drove a stake through decades of peace and confidence building measures that India and China had been working on at least since Rajiv Gandhi's historic visit to Beijing in the 1980s. That edifice that had been constructed to ensure that there was peace and tranquility on the boundary issue between India and China was ripped up by Xi Jinping and his actions in 2020, which culminated in Galwan, where 20 brave Indian soldiers lost their lives and several Chinese soldiers died as well. Now that was a red line, so to speak, between India-China relations, but things have moved on since then. The relationship is not as adversarial as it used to be in 2020. It looked like India and China were going to go to war, but now that seems to have abated. A better sense seems to have prevailed in Beijing, and what we've been seeing over the last couple of months, beginning with the summit in Kazan, was a warming, a thawing of ties between India and China. There was a certain outreach made by China, and India seems to have reciprocated.
Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai, remember that? The 1950s, Panchsheel, smiles, handshake. Then 1962, China struck. India reeled and the brotherhood became betrayal. Since then, the cycle repeats. A smile, a summit, then a stab in the back. Beijing perfected humiliation, refusing ambassadors, publishing provocative maps, blocking India in global forums, shielding Pakistan at the United Nations. Every gesture carries a sting. Every promise has a catch. India too has stumbled. Diplomacy often reacts rather than anticipates. When crises hit, there was no structural buffer, only mistrust, anger, and reactive policy.
आप अगर पुराने रिकॉर्ड देखेंगे, सदियों तक चीन और भारत एक दूसरे से सीखते रहे हैं और दोनों मिलकर के दुनिया की भलाई के लिए कोई न कोई कंट्रीब्यूट करते रहे। ग्लोबल पुराने जो रिकॉर्ड्स हैं कहते हैं कि दुनिया का जो जीडीपी का था, उसका 50% से ज्यादा अकेले भारत और चीन का हुआ करता था। इतना बड़ा कंट्रीब्यूशन का साथ होना ना सिर्फ बेनिफिशियल है, बल्कि ग्लोबल स्टेबिलिटी और प्रॉस्पेरिटी के लिए भी जरूरी है। और जब 21वीं सदी एशिया की सदी है, तो हम तो चाहेंगे कि भारत चीन के बीच में स्पर्धा सब स्वाभाविक है। स्पर्धा कोई गलत चीज नहीं है, ये संघर्ष नहीं होना चाहिए।
Modi believed in personal rapport. But can rapport and handshake substitute for planning and strategy? Nehru believed slogans could erase suspicion. Both were proven wrong. India failed to build robust institutions for managing China. Military modernization lagged. Intelligence was fragmented. Strategy zigzagged, reactive one day, aggressive the next. India misread China repeatedly. Threats were everywhere. Opportunities missed. Engagements that could have stabilized the relationship were delayed or mishandled. Leader-to-leader diplomacy cannot substitute for national strategy. Without institutional depth, crises become disasters. SCO 2025 is an opportunity to correct past mistakes, but only if India approaches it with realism rather than hope. China's betrayals are carved into history. 1962, Galwan 2020. Each time, China smiled before striking. Incursions, roads on disputed land, settlements in contested valleys, military infrastructure rising overnight, Arunachal Pradesh renamed South Tibet, maps redrawn.
देखिए ऐसा है, अगर कोई मैं आपके घर का नाम बदल दूं तो मेरा घर बन जाएगा क्या? अरुणाचल प्रदेश भारत का स्टेट है, पहले भी था, अभी भी है, आगे भी रहेगा। तो ये नाम बदलने से कुछ नहीं होता।
Beyond the border, China's embrace of Pakistan is a permanent wound. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor slices through Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. China shields terrorists at the United Nations. Beijing arms Pakistan, props it up against India. Not partnership, sabotage.
Well, Pakistan is the elephant in the room, or to borrow from Field Marshal Asim Munir's analogy, it is the dump truck filled with rubble in the room, and this is going to be an overhang over India-China relations. Now, historically, China has provided Pakistan nuclear weapons in the 1980s. That is the level of collusivity that Pakistan and China have enjoyed, and more recently, China has supplied something like 90% of Pakistan's conventional weapons. This includes 8 conventionally powered Hangor-class submarines, which Pakistan has begun acquiring. And during Operation Sindoor, we saw a large amount of Chinese hardware being used against India. This was highlighted, of course, by the Indian side. It wasn't very effective, though, given the kind of battering that the Pakistan Air Force received in the final phases of Operation Sindoor. But that said, the China-Pakistan relationship is always going to be a problem. And this is an issue, this is a problem that India will have to face, especially given the fact that you have the CPAC corridor, which is the southern end of the Belt and Road Initiative, passing through Indian territory, the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, which is occupied by Pakistan, but through which China has run this very significant corridor. Those are irritants that are going to remain for several decades, and this is going to be a challenge for India to navigate as it conducts this new phase of ties with China.
China has also blocked India's rise on the global stage. Nuclear suppliers group vetoed. United Nations Security Council reform blocked. Every lever has been used to keep India just short of global parity. Betrayal is strategic and repeated. Trump's 2025 tariff war reshaped Asia. America slapped India. America slapped China. Both economies bruised. Supply chains rattled. Markets trembled.
We have a very strong relationship, Howard, I would say, economically with China now, getting much better. They have to give us magnets. If they don't give us magnets, then we have to charge them 200% tariff or something, you know. But we're not going to have a problem, I don't think, with that. I think that's perhaps behind us. You know, China intelligently went and they sort of took a monopoly of the world's magnets. I don't blame them necessarily, but it's a different way of doing business. It's very hard to sell into India because they have trade barriers, very strong tariffs. We are right now a reciprocal nation. We are going to, if it's India or if it's somebody else with low tariffs, we're going to have the same. We're going to have whatever India charges, we're charging them. Whatever another country charges, we're charging them. So it's called reciprocal, which I think is a very fair way.
For once, India and China face the same storm.
President Donald Trump's actions over the last couple of days has only accelerated this process when India is looking for new partnerships that could help counterbalance this offensive launched by the United States against India, especially on the question of tariffs. So India and China, the relationship is not going to be as it was in the past. It is going to be a trust but verify relationship, at least when India is looking north from its borders, given the history of what happened in 2020 and right down to more recently with Operation Sindoor, where China had provided a lot of assistance to Pakistan. Now that is unfortunately going to be a reality that India and Indian diplomats will have to address in the years ahead.
Beijing publicly supported India's protest against Trump's tariffs. Flights resumed, visas were issued, pilgrimages reopened, trade flows cautiously returned, working groups emerged, climate and tech cooperation restarted. This alignment is tactical, not friendship, necessity, not trust. The enemy of my enemy became a temporary ally. Both nations saw the value of recalibration, but is temporary alignment enough to overcome decades of mistrust? India once spoke Beijing where it hurt the most, South China Sea. During Modi's trip to Washington, D.C. and his bilateral meeting with President Obama, India signed a joint statement explicitly referencing the maritime dispute. Bold, risky, and provocative. Why? To signal India's role in Asia-Pacific security, now known as the Indo-Pacific. To support Vietnam and ASEAN states. To raise the cost of Chinese coercion. Beijing fumed. India joined the US in challenging China's maritime ambitions. That bitterness hangs over every Modi-Xi encounter. SCO 2025 must navigate this tense legacy. Can diplomacy survive when history itself is a weapon? India trusted too much. China betrayed too often. That is the cycle. The lesson is brutal. Don't mistake handshakes for guarantees. Don't hope friendship can erase betrayal. India must plan strategically, proactively, institutionally. China must restrain its aggressive tools, including Pakistan and border manipulations. Otherwise, history repeats itself. Every thaw is temporary. Every summit is a test. SCO 2025 will be another data point in a relationship defined by suspicion and interest, not emotion. The road ahead? Pragmatism, not illusions. Modi and Xi will not solve decades of mistrust in a single summit. Everyone knows it. What they can really do is manage the rivalry, de-escalate tensions, resume trade, complete troop withdrawal, collaborate on climate and technology, keep the relationship functional?
Well, the SCO Summit, where Prime Minister Modi is traveling to China for, is his first visit to China in 7 years. That itself is historic. It's one of the longest breaks in recent years between at a bilateral level between India and China. Now that is a thing of the past. Now it seems those delays are behind us, and India and China have decided to move ahead with the relationship, but from India's perspective, it is going to be one of trust but verify. China will not enjoy the same level of trust in 2025 that it did in the years preceding 2020, where we saw a very unprecedented outreach between Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping. That was unfortunately not reciprocated with the efforts that, with the kind of military mobilization that China launched in 2020, taking advantage of COVID and the lockdown and many other things. But the relationship is going to start afresh in 2025.
This is survival, not friendship. Interests, not illusions. Cold logic, not warm rhetoric. India's strategy must be proactive. China's restraint must be deliberate. Otherwise, the cycle will repeat. SCO 2025 is more than a summit. It is a stress test. Will India and China carve out pragmatic cooperation, or will history's weight crush them again? Borders remain contested. Trust is fractured. Betrayals are remembered. India's miscalculations have scarred its strategy. China's betrayals have shaped its assertiveness. Yet, here they are, meeting once again. Trump's tariffs forced a pause, a temporary convergence. World will watch if SCO 2025 leads to incremental progress or another freeze in a century-long cycle of rivalry. Asia's future does not rest on photo ops. It rests on calculated moves. Modi and Xi know it. So should we. Every thaw carries a shadow. Every handshake risks another betrayal. Can pragmatism finally outweigh mistrust? Or is SCO 2025 just the calm before the next storm? Thank you for watching Statecraft.